Hello, good evening and welcome to Peccadillo Sofa Club, the Iris Prize special. My name is Holly and I'm the head of outreach and social media at Iris. And it's my pleasure to be hosting tonight and chatting about Iris 2022 with some very special guests. Before we begin, I'd like to say a big thank you to the BFI for their support of the Peccadillo Sofa Club. And now let's kick off season 2, episode 1, and meet tonight's guests. With us, we have the festival director of the Iris Prize, Badwin Rowlands. Hello, Badwin.
Good evening, Holly. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Well, I'm in the office.
Lovely. Commitment. We've also got joining us tonight historian, writer, and a member of the 2022 Iris Prize International Jury, Noreena Shopland. Hello, Noreena.
Hello. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. We're also joined by the writer and director of Iris 2022's double award-winning short film, Jim. We've got Tom Young. Hello, Tom.
Hello. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. We'll be chatting in a bit with Tim Heisted, who is the senior film editor of Acquired Features for Channel 4 and also chaired the Best British Short Film Jury this year. Hello, Tim.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to be here and see you all.
Thank you so much. And finally, we'll be joined by the producer of 2022's Iris Prize Best British Short Film winner from Queer Paravar. Please give a warm welcome to Neeraj Churi. Hello, Neeraj. How are you?
Hello. Excited to be here. Thank you for the chance.
Well, thank you all for coming. I'm so looking forward to speaking with you all throughout tonight's Sofa Club. But first, we're going to have a little reminder of what happened at Iris 2022.
It's been really special being here and being part of a very safe queer community and really being able to kind of express myself and my films for everything they are.
Iris has only grown and shown its resiliency. It just keeps getting bigger and stronger, and I'm just in awe.
Iris is always really lovely. It's a really sociable festival. There's loads of interesting people to meet, and I think as a filmmaker it can be quite a lonely journey sometimes. So it's quite nice to be able to go and chat to other people and meet other random people in the bar, have a shandy, have a chat, what's not to like.
I think I would definitely come back again and again and again because I've just not experienced a vibe like this. It's such a kind of positive, uplifting space to be.
It's a great place to find an audience for queer stories by queer people for queer people.
Meeting different people, everyone is so nice here and so inspiring, and I really feel like I'm very welcomed here. And people understand and want to understand what your project is, and that's really nice.
You do feel like part of a family when you come to Iris, and you know, you keep in touch with people, and that's brilliant, and I don't think that'll ever go away.
It's a little community, a little safe haven, where you get to kind of meet like-minded, lovely people. It's very not intimidating for a film festival, which I really, really like.
And it's just lovely to be in a big queer gathering. It's a special space.
Our first guest tonight is the Iris Prize Festival Director, Badwin Rowlands. Hello, Badwin.
Noswaith, Holly, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm a bit emotional, actually, just watching that back, being reminded about the festival this year. How was that for you?
Emotional. It's odd, isn't it? It's kind of... having said that, whenever I see a package, this is the festival, you always have to remind people we did actually watch a lot of films as well. There was a suggestion there that we partied, but I think we watched a lot of films. and we partied. And that's the whole thing, isn't it? I don't want to be too down, but it's a really difficult time for cinemas at the moment and festivals. We've lost the Edinburgh Film Festival. We've lost some local cinemas, including Premier Cinemas. We were there. It was full of energy, and then poof, it's closed. And and therefore the role of a film festival and what we do as the whole team is we do something rather special. It's not good enough anymore just to show good films, because there's so much content available in so many different places. We've got to do something extra, and that's what we got to see in that clip. The extra is obviously people, filmmakers, writers, directors, actors, and of course our audience, and they were all there enjoying, talking. And I'd kind of forgotten, was it 2 years of the pandemic or whatever it was? And it was something so obvious. It's called people talking. And of course, because I do talk a lot, it's called listening as well. And I'm hoping people had an opportunity to listen, because, we're not a campaigning organization. That's not our job. Our job is to share LGBTQ plus stories, because that's our aim. And God, yeah, I want to do it again now. I'm kind of ready. I think I need a few.
Well, the countdown clock's probably going already on the website. I mean, yeah, what you're saying there is absolutely true, isn't it? That festivals need to keep evolving. COVID caused Iris to evolve in a kind of speedier way than I think we ever thought we were going to. But if we can just take it right back to 16 years ago, the very first Iris Prize Festival, and at the essence of it, we have the Iris Prize. So can you tell us a bit more about what that eponymous prize is?
What we found 17, 18 years ago, because we developed the project for about a year, and then we launched, and then it happened. What we knew was that there were loads of film festivals. It was almost like the beginning of the end, like almost every seaside town at a festival. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sharing content is really important. But we felt passionately, and it was with the UK Film Council, if I remember at the time, but we felt passionately that we needed authentic storytelling. We needed to see content, stories that we weren't seeing in the mainstream. So we were quite pompous, and we said, let's go for it. And we wanted to support excellence in storytelling. And we knew that for us to have a voice that was going to be recognized, we had to do something quite serious. And therefore, we decided we would actually pay for somebody to make another short film. So we became quite, we were in an exclusive club, actually, because most festivals do a really good job of sharing content. And then Iris hopefully does a good job of sharing content, but we are also investing in new content. And here we are. We've made 12 short films with winners from countries all over the world, where they've come back to the UK, specifically here in Wales, to make their work. But 17 years later, we've made 80, 90 education and community shorts, working with school groups, community groups. So we've allowed, through the festival, lots of different people an opportunity to share their stories. And I'm not sure if you're going to ask me about my favourite bit of this year, but the favourite bit of this year was definitely opening night, and it was almost 16 years in the making. We had spent time making sure that what we were doing internationally was taken seriously, and it is. I know that that's the case, that within the queer filmmaking world, it is seen as something important. But at the same time, we exist in a place called Cardiff, which you and I call home, and it's a special place, as is the rest of the UK. So, we're in this fantastic situation where on opening night this year, we wanted to tell the world, here's a little sneak of what we get up to. These are our stories. And we made people laugh. We made people cry. We made, we had big stars, Welsh icons like Ruth Maddock. We had, unknown actors. And it was there, opening night. It was just this amazing collection of stories. And it was our little bit. It was like Wales talking to the world. And that was quite goose pimply, because I also felt that we weren't compromising anything on talent, and that, the local content that we had. And of course, one of the big ones was Cardiff, made by an Iris winner, and it was an example of what you can make really when you win Iris, a screwball comedy that there is one obviously big scene in the film which I won't mention now. It might be too early, but anal bleaching obviously is something I didn't quite think I'd see on the big screen, to be honest with you.
And I don't think we thought we were going to get onto that in the first 10 minutes of the Sofa Club either. But no, as you say, it's an amazing platform to share not only LGBTQ plus stories from around the world, but also to highlight the talent that is in Wales, telling stories, creating stories, living authentic truths, and sharing that with the world. And one of these fabulous people, Noreena, we're going to talk to you in a minute, who was on the jury. So before we do that, I just wondered if you could share a little bit about how the winner of the Iris Prize is chosen, because Iris create and invite independent juries. And why is that so important for a film festival, but also for Iris?
Well, Noreena has been on my list to invite to be on the jury for years and years and years. It's always a matter of when is the time right? When is there a slot available? We were very clear from the beginning with Iris that we wanted the wider community to make the decision. We wanted to continue to be friends with filmmakers that might not win. No, that wasn't the case. But we wanted people from different areas of life, journalists, actors, some obvious ones, writers, directors, but also people who are not directly involved in LGBT politics or necessarily within the film world. However, it is a mixture of people. And I think we could be relatively confident that by deciding to ask independent voices annually to come together and to tell us, this is the winner, we want you to give this filmmaker £30,000, courtesy of the Michael Bishop Foundation, to make another short film. And the reason we're confident that we've had the right jury members is the pre-selection. It involves literally tens and tens and tens and tens of people. So and because of what happened with the pandemic and that part of the process is online, it's diverse, and it's diverse in every possible way that you can imagine. Also, of course, geographically diverse. And so by the time Noreena and her fellow jury members get to see the final films, they do get to see, dare I say it, the best of the best. So it's not a difficult job for them. It's just like, here's a bunch of films, just tell us which is the winner. And it's easy for them. They never argue, disagree, I'm sure.
Well, we're going to find out that now from Noreena. So our next guest is the brilliant Noreena Shoplin, known for being a writer and a historian, and also this year a member of the International Iris jury. So Noreena, how was Iris for you this year? And how did it feel to be back in an in-person audience after so much virtual engagement?
It was great. It was different for me because as a writer, historian predominantly, I do a lot of sort of reviewing of books, but I haven't really done a lot of reviewing of visual media. So it's something quite different for me. And also, of course, reviewing books is quite a sort of lonely profession. And sort of being on a jury was a nice experience. And yeah, it was really interesting because I happily went away and wrote all my notes on all the films, and I was very clear about what I liked and what I didn't like. And then it's sort of like you join the jury, and the things that I like, people were like, no, we didn't like that, and I'm like, what? No, yeah. And so having to sort of think very carefully about, well, why did I like that? Why did I dislike that? And you start to unravel it. And then it was great because the people on the jury, everybody was very friendly. We sat around, chatted for a while. I learned a lot, and there was lots of different experiences from production to, sort of all sorts of different people, as Bowen said. So it was a great experience, and I learned a lot, and it was great fun. Being back in a live event, yeah, fabulous. I mean, the only problem is after being away so long, like, do you hug people? Do you kiss people?
Yeah.
So, and also people that you've seen for so long on screen, on Zoom and everything, you just completely walk by them because you don't recognize them in real life. But it was fabulous. It was great fun. Met a lot of really good people, did a lot of fabulous networking, have got a number of projects which I'm already looking at. So all round it was great.
Well, that sounds like it's ticked all the Iris boxes. We love that. So let's just go back to when you say when you all got together, you were all thinking different things, had different opinions. What were you looking for? What does excellence in storytelling mean to you, Noreena?
Well, all the stuff that I write on the principle it has to be a rattling good story, because at the end of the day, that's what people want. That's what you like. That's what you remember. And so for me, I was looking for the really good stories, the powerful stories. And so for me, the production values were not so important. And differences. I mean, we're so accustomed to seeing sort of mainstream narratives and things. I really liked the ones that had more diversity in them. And like, oh, finally these people get to be on screen, so I honed in on those. But yeah, the basic thing was it a good story? Was it enjoyable? Did I enjoy watching it?
Amazing. And in a way, it's probably because we now all know who the winner is, but when you're talking about your criteria there, I'm like, yeah, Tani does that, it does that, it does that. So how did you all come to choose the winner, and what was it about Tani that so captured all of your attention?
It's interesting because initially, because there were 36 films, and quite a few just got left off the end because we just couldn't agree, or and then we honed in sort of like the last 15, 10 and so on. And that was consistently in every time we had a recount, because people put forward their views. As I said before, things that I liked, people went, oh, but this, and I thought, oh, yeah, you've got a point. Yeah, see, but that was the film that consistently crept into every group as we sort of regrouped what we liked.
Amazing. Well, I think it is quite a special film. Thank you, Noreena, for that. So yeah, with Tani, John Sheedy actually became the 4th director from Australia to win Iris, and Berwyn caught up with John during the week of the festival under the proviso that he was recording a Sofa Club. So we're going to take a look at that chat in just a moment, after we're reminded of the 36 incredible films that competed for the Iris Prize this year.
Hello, welcome. My name's Bedwin Rowlands, and here's another sofa conversation with one of our amazing shortlisted filmmakers who is unable to join us here in Cardiff for the Iris Prize.
We're so thrilled to be a part of it, you know, and it's wonderful. You put everything into a, you know, you have this story and you put everything into it, and it's so wonderful that it gets a bigger life.
Because obviously this is your second film to be shortlisted, but Mrs. McCutcheon, I must be honest, I always felt it was the film that should have won Iris at some point.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say. Thank you.
And
that film has has a very soft spot for me. You know, that's and it's such a beautiful journey to go on and a film to write, and I think it had all the ingredients of, you know, innocence, heartbreak, and put a spotlight on trans children as well as single parenting. And, you know, that film has had a really big journey. That got programmed in over 152 festivals and ended up picking up 54 awards. So it's still kind of getting requests. So I'm so thrilled that little film gone out there, and Mrs. McCutcheon's had a big life. To be very honest, you make the film, you have the story in your head that you want to tell, and Tarneet really arrived in my mind because I catch the train and there is a suburb, Tarneet, and I started creating this story, and I always wanted to tell the second part of Mrs. McCutcheon. You know, there will be a third, and it's not that it's Mrs. McCutcheon, but it's a trilogy, and I wanted to tell that, and I want to tell the story and as authentically as possible, and put a spotlight on you know, queer stories.
You seem to be very very capable of directing young people. Is that something you've developed? Because you know, they say don't work with children and animals, and you seem to be very successful.
I know, and I've managed to do all of it. I studied acting for 3 years at university. I worked as an actor in television and in theatre, and then I did my postgrad in directing theatre and opera, and then I directed Opera Australia and theatre around there, and I ended up running a theatre company creating works for young people, and we did things like Storm Boy and Jasper Jones and the Rabbits. These are classic Australian stories, and not that I was necessarily working with young people because we were creating stories for young people, but made by adults. But that did give me an access point into the world of young people and how and I think one of the things I'm very passionate about is grabbing hold of a very difficult topic and that young people have to navigate and making it accessible to them. And I'm not scared of things like grief. How does a 10-year-old understand grief? How does a 12-year-old understand being queer and being in a house where no one understands what queer is? How does a single parent deal with their 10-year-old saying, I think I was born in the wrong body? You know, how do we make that accessible? So I really love that challenge and creating the world around that, but also getting very truthful performances. So I really enjoy creating that world. Tarneet does come in a lot harder. You know, that's a tough environment. And it is about those two profoundly deaf teenagers who are in very difficult home environments.
How do you actually find the actors? Are they deaf themselves, or are they acting?
We went around to a lot of deaf schools, and we literally just auditioned. We put notices up and we did a wide search. We worked with the deaf community in Victoria, Australia, and we workshopped and we narrowed it down and we paired them up. And we got those two fantastic young men who put a really brave, honest performance together. And you know, they were very cheeky, and they were delighted to be doing a film, and they were having fun. You can't patronise young people. You can't patronise your actors of that age. You have to put the trust in them that they will navigate what's on the page, as tough as it is. And you have to sit there, and my job is to allow them to lead, and they will find opportunities, and they'll present opportunities. And there's points where I'll go, no, I think it's more that. So it really is putting a lot of trust in your young people and allowing them to own it a lot.
One of the questions I get as somebody from Wales, they always ask you, do you know so-and-so? Because they live in Wales. And then you can say, okay, but there's only 3 million of us. And I think there's a few more millions of you in Australia. But obviously there's been 3, Australian winners of the Iris Prize. I just wonder, do you know any of them?
I don't know those winners personally. I know of Brendan.
I'm actually looking forward to meeting you when you have to come back to Wales, because you are actually the 4th winner of the Iris Prize from Australia.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that you telling me that?
I'm telling you that, yes. Congratulations.
That is amazing. Are you joking?
It would be very irresponsible to joke.
It totally would. That is incredible. I don't know what to say. I'm so thrilled, and you've caught me at a very vulnerable moment. I'm shooting this whole series about the AIDS pandemic, and anyway, that is amazing. I could not be more honoured and thrilled, and for those 2 brave young actors who are profoundly deaf, telling this queer story and being a part of that is so amazing. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. That is extraordinary. Gee, you kept that a secret, didn't you?
Well, I wanted you to enjoy the moment, because you've created a wonderful, wonderful piece of work. And I know the jury felt very, very passionately that they were delighted to present you with the award. So, as I said, we're looking forward to welcoming you back to the UK and to seeing what you make.
I cannot thank you enough, and the jury enough. I think it is so amazing that you've created this platform for queer films and artists, and that, these stories have a place. And I'm so super proud of those 2 young men and the bravery, and all of my cast and crew. And thank you so much. It is such a great honour to be the 4th. And I just think you are so sneaky keeping that.
You, out! I said get out!
What?
You can't hang out with him. We are brothers. We must always stick together. Do you understand? All we have is each other. All that matters is each other.
So that was the 2022 winner of the Iris Prize, Tarneet. And if you missed the chance to see that during Iris, keep an eye out in the new year for the Iris on the Move schedule, where the Best of Iris 2022 will be touring around the UK. So the Iris Prize itself, of course, isn't the only award at the festival. And this week we announced the winner of a very special award, the Co-op Audience Award, which is voted for by the Iris audience when they watch the films in person and online. and this was won by Jim, written and directed by Tom Young, who we'll be speaking to in a minute. But first, we're going to speak to Bedouin again. Hello. So, Bedouin, why is it so important that Iris has an award that is voted for by the audience?
Because the audience sometimes will see something that the jury doesn't see. And sometimes the audience is in complete agreement with the jury. And I think the main reason, however, having said that, all of that, is to engage, is to, to allow the audience an opportunity to respond powerfully by actually saying, that's my film, and you vote. And it's interesting, this is the third year where the Co-op have sponsored this, and it's, as you know, it's promoted in all of the Co-op shops, the thousands across the UK. And when you meet people, especially when you take Iris on the move and you're in Newcastle or Liverpool or wherever, Plymouth, Bournemouth, and people say, I voted for that one. Or that was, and Birthday Boy, obviously, last year. So there is that wonderful sense of ownership. So as again, we were talking earlier about sharing content is really good and unbelievably important. Investing in content is also very, very important. But also allowing the audience to have, in the old days, it was called audience development, which sounds a bit patronizing, to be honest with you. But it's kind of part of that. And it's lovely, isn't it? People will say, oh, I can't be on the jury, or I can't do that because, and you say, because why? You know what you like, etc., etc. So yeah, the audience award is because we celebrate filmmakers, which is one of the great things that we're able to do. But dare you ignore your audience? And what we have is a growing audience that's becoming quite sophisticated, and I just get very excited that our growing audience, yes, they're watching LGBTQ plus stories, but I think more than anything else, they're just watching a really good story. And as
Absolutely.
Excellence in storytelling, and the public know what they're doing most of the time.
So, as you said, this is the third Co-op Audience Award. So we now have a little trilogy. Wings was the first, Birthday Boy the second, and then this year, Jim. All quite different films, but can you see any themes in them that you think are particularly appealing to the Irish audience? Any sort of strand that ties them together, perhaps?
I think the thing that ties them together is the fact that there's a story there. It's not scary. It's not something, oh, I don't understand that. And you don't have to be queer. You don't have to be a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or whatever. You just need to be a human. You just need to have emotion. You need to be alive. You need to be susceptible to other people. And that's what all of them have presented, in a way. It's like being voyeuristic, isn't it? It's kind of being given permission to observe other people's lives and other people's stories. And I'm a nosy so and so. I do look out through the window. I don't hide behind neck curtains. I'm there, just looking out the world. And of course, that's quite boring, just looking out through your window, because not a lot happens in the street, not in our street, but in cinema and at Iris, there's this massive stories, and yeah, it's just, I think it's it's also doing something that the mainstream still isn't doing. And I don't think there's a conspiracy where the mainstream say, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, because it is moving in the right direction. But there's such a lot about the queer existence in all its beautiful forms where it's been invisible. And I think this time round, obviously, it's a slightly older male character. And because in the world that we're living in, everybody thinks that everything is hunky-dory. But, it's obvious that there are still people of a certain age who still find acknowledging their sexuality a massive, massive task that they are unable to do, or feel that it's difficult to do. So just a reminder, the world might be great for us in our bubble of irisness, where we get to be very confident with lots of confident filmmakers, but a lot of people not that. And it was, but it's not a sad film for me, Jim. There is masses of hope in there, and it's the kind of story like the other two, where I would be very, and this isn't a criticism, where I would be happy for my mother to enjoy it, and she would tell her friends, "See this."
Well, just to touch back on what you were saying there about mainstreaming stories in that way, it's obviously the Audience Award, but not just that, it's the Co-op Audience Award. And what does it mean to have such a mainstream high street name as the sponsor of this LGBTQ+ award?
Well, it's the kind of thing we didn't dream about when we launched Iris. They did, oh yeah, I tell you what would be really nice. Wouldn't it be great if the Co-op supported the Audience Award and all the tills in all the shops across the UK, they would be telling people, please vote now. And it's happened. It's happening. And it's not Iris. There's a lot happening, and over the past 17 years, we've come a long way. And it's great to have a massive institution like the Co-op share our excitement. It's a relationship with Channel 4. It's a relationship with the Michael Bishop Foundation, but this happens to be the Co-op, and it's just this natural relationship. And I must be honest, Co-op trifle is actually rather delightful, and there's nothing better than a Co-op trifle to sit back, relax, eat that, and enjoy one of our films.
Well, I think before this turns into a full sponsored ad for the Co-op, we're going to talk to Tom Young in just a second, but let's first take a look at a clip of Jim, the Co-op Audience Award winner for this year.
Come on, humour me.
Most people just want to get on with it.
I think we both need to relax a little, eh? You're not quite what I expected from
a rent boy.
Well,
it's fine. It's what I am. Anyway, you're definitely not what I expected from a priest. Shit. That makes me lightheaded.
Come on. Another drink.
Nah, I couldn't.
Okay, me first.
Hello, Tom. Welcome to the Sofa Club. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, good.
Good. Well, huge congratulations. As well as being the winner of the Co-op Audience Award, Jim also picked up the first ever award for Best Performance in a Male Role in a British Short Film, sponsored by Out and Proud, which went to Gary Fannin for the role of Jim. How does it feel to have won 2 awards at Iris this year?
Totally blown away. Gary's obviously had a bit longer to sink in. That was on the night. That was an amazing thing. I hadn't realised that was the first year you'd done that award. Actually, he was so thrilled, and he had just been absolutely brilliant. From the kind of self-tape on. But the Audience Award, yeah. I mean, I saw we got to the last 6, and then to have won it, we're just totally blown away, really. And a little like Bowen was saying, that just reflecting on what it is, really, because there would, I mean, it was my first time at Iris, one of my first festivals I've been to, and just the standard generally was so incredible, and I enjoyed so many of those films. And yeah, maybe something about the story, which was based on a real life character, which drew me to write the story in the first place, maybe the same sort of thing that was drawing me into that story perhaps spoke to audiences, which was really nice.
Well, welcome to the Iris family. Your
Thank
first,
you.
but I definitely don't think it will be your last. So big kutches into Iris. So you just mentioned that this is based on a true story. I mean, that is a huge responsibility to tell,
For sure.
and a greatly exciting thing. How did you first come across this story? And what was the moment where you sort of thought, I have to make this film?
So 2018, there was another, much smaller festival who I'd made who screened a documentary of mine and came back to me. They also produced kind of small films, and they're based in West Elscourt. And they asked me to make a kind of community documentary. And they said, look, there's this guy, and he's just this really fascinating person, and he's just died sadly in that year. He was 90, had a long life, and I just totally fell in love with this character, just this amazing life. He's actually Canadian. We thought that would play a bit oddly in a short film about a priest set in London. People would probably think he was American and wonder where we. So, but I didn't want him to be British. We went with Irish in the end. So in our film, there are slight changes to the short film, but yeah. So it's funny hearing the previous director talking about he was directing something about the AIDS pandemic, because this priest was absolutely central in delivering AIDS care in 80s London. Cut a long story short, he had a fascinating life, but ended up in London, was one of the first must have been one of the very first openly gay priests to be ordained in London in the 70s. Had a very difficult life in many ways, and ended up just in this kind of West London area, pretty much just kind of wandering the streets and working with people on that level. Gay people. Elscourt was the gay centre of London then. Prostitutes, kind of outsiders. He was an outsider, and he kind of welcomed outsiders into his life. And then he was just the perfect kind of caring person who was there when the AIDS crisis hit in 80s London. But along with that, he had a long-term relationship with, by the time it was known about, a kind of ex-sex worker. And with him then founded, I think to this day, one of the only charities that's ever existed, at that time incredibly pioneering charity to look after this terrible problem, which was young male sex workers in London at that time. It's a well-known issue, or was then, who were there, and AIDS was also, becoming a crisis as well. So there was this terrible crisis for that community, and he was just this central figure. And yeah, I think so. I made the documentary, and I just thought, to be honest, I thought I wanted, like many of us, feature film aspirations. I'd like to write his life story for a feature film, but I thought, what's a kind of sliver of his life which kind of works as a short film but gives you enough to go on. And I think the thing about this short is the feedback I was getting from people at the festival was there's a little story about him meeting this boy that night, but there's a kind of moment at the end you realize there's a much bigger kind of arc to it, and that was what people seemed to be responding to. And I was really pleased about that, because that was really what motivated the whole film, was the kind of bigger arc of his life. But it's how do you tell that in kind of 15 minutes, really? That was the challenge.
Yeah, well, a challenge you've definitely pulled off. It's such a powerful story. And I think, you say that when you paint that picture of that period of history, it could have been a really, really dark film, but actually there's a huge amount of hope and light within it, which I think is a beautiful way to kind of tell that story. You say that unfortunately he died, though lived a very long life. Were you able to meet with lots of people in that community to kind of help you build that world that could tell you stories about this character?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, so doing the documentary, I met all of those people and spoke to them, and yeah, I sort of, it was odd because of course he only just died. It felt like, and I became so fascinated by him. It was like, although very sadly he'd had terrible dementia, he'd been virtually mute actually for quite a long time. So sort of sad end to his life. But no, that was it. You sort of talking to these people and seeing them light up, talking about him. There was actually, I mean, he was reasonably well known. He worked with Princess Diana in the 80s, and there was actually a TV documentary about him in the 80s as well. So, yeah, so that was part of it, the process, very much so. Yeah, and in terms of informing the actual film, definitely. I mean, there was a particular guy who worked in that charity that he founded for male sex workers. And I spoke to him a lot, and he gave me a lot. There were little touches. I mean, you know, I doubt people often might not even notice, but things like the morning after the boys disappeared, he goes to the kitchen. Little details like he's just sort of grabbed a bowl of cereal on the way out. He was just talking about the reality of those people's lives, you know. So little features like that kind of definitely came into it.
Yeah, it definitely really rings true, which is quite difficult to do sometimes when you're making a period piece. And, you know, we're not talking the full Bridgerton, but the 80s. Yeah. How did you kind of go about creating that world on screen?
Well, the biggest thing was the main location. Obviously, most of it is set in this one house. Churches are a gift because churches don't change much. So I've seen in the church. That was fine. We got a street scene, and we just found a kind of anonymous street. It's since been pointed out to me that 80s they had parking meters all down the street, but I think only nitpickers would probably pick up on that. But yeah, the house. So and that was, you know, on the budget we were on, that was very difficult. So I spent a lot of time driving around London to these. You know, if people are, if it's a lower budget, there's always something. And there was one house that was perfect, but just unbelievably cluttered, and we'd have spent the entire shoot just clearing it out to film. So we eventually found this. It just happened to be free for a window, so it was convenient for them to, you know, as it was free to let us have it. It's just quite an amazing place in South London. And of course, you know, most, as we all know, filmmakers will know anyway, that anything that was actually from that period just looks ancient and battered by now. But this place had just been perfectly preserved. It was just really odd. And you didn't want it not completely perfectly, because that's not going to look right either, because it's kind of got to be lived in. So yeah, we just got really lucky. And to be honest, we had a great production designer, but a lot of that element, it was just kind of already there. We just kind of moved into the house and lit it, really. So
amazing. Well, that's some
Bit of a
alchemy you've got going on there. Incredible. So obviously this film has resonated massively with the audience. You've won the audience award. And it's now going to be seen by an even bigger audience, thanks to it being on Channel 4 last night, I believe, and now on All 4. How does that feel for you?
I mean, I'll be totally honest, I didn't stay up to watch it last night. I probably should have done. But yeah, I mean, look, that's, you know, I'm just enormously honoured and grateful to have got the nomination in the first place, to get that screening. It definitely gets people's attention, you know. Showing it online, the fact that it's on Channel 4 is just fantastic. And yeah, I think as much as anything, like I say, in the long run with my producer, we're looking to sort of develop this into the feature. We've already started work on that. I think, but you know, very much hoping we'll work towards that happening. But just to have got that story about this guy out there, even in this shorter form, does feel really nice, actually, because that was the original impulse really behind it. Was this is an amazing person, and it's nice that other people know about him now a bit more, I think.
Amazing. Well, I think it's really going to touch a lot of people who are going to get to see it. So as well as the feature-length version of Jim, what's next for you, Tom?
Well, I'm I don't know if a late starter or not. I mean, I can't really call it a day job. That's a bit rude. I have, you know, another career, and I'm sort of branching into filmmaking. So that's my day-to-day life. Yeah, along with that feature, there's another. I have. You might not know it from Jim. I mean, I have two kind of real loves. One is kind of intimate personal dramas like Jim, which would very much be the feature, will be along those lines as well. I'm a bit of a genre person as well, horror and sci-fi. So yeah, I know it doesn't. I don't know if those fit together or not, but they do in me. So yeah, so really quite a kind of darker horror script I'm developing as well. So
I was not expecting that from you.
No, I didn't think you would. That's something very different, but yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm very excited to see that.
Thank you.
And if you'll stick around, if any of our guests have got some questions for Tom or anyone else that we're talking to this evening, do ask in the live chat wherever you're watching. And don't forget to catch Jim on All Four if you've not seen it yet, along with the other 14 short films which were in the Best British competition this year. Next, we're going to be chatting about the winner of the 2022 Best British Short Award. But first, here's a reminder of all of those 15 amazing films that were in competition.
मिलते मिलते ही तुम्हारे हम दीवाने थे जब से तुम मिले नजारे खिल गए मिलते मिलते ही तुम्हारे हम दीवाने थे जब से तुम मिले सितारे खिल गए मिलते मिलते ही तुम मिलते मिलते ही मिलते मिलते ही तुम मिलते मिलते ही तुम्हारे हम दीवाने थे जब से तुम मिले सितारे खिल गए
That was a clip of the Best British Short winner from this year at Iris, Queer Paravar, which we're going to chat about now with the chair of the Best British Short jury, Tim Highstead, and the producer of Queer Paravar, Neeraj Churi. Welcome to you both. Hello.
Hello.
Can we all hear everyone? Good. So I've got to say one of my Iris highlights this year was the moment that Tim announced Queer Paravar as the winner. The reaction was incredible. Neeraj, can you talk us through what that moment was like for you and your team?
It was, and I was utter disbelief what was going on, how it was unfolding. We didn't know what exactly to do. It was almost like winning an Academy Award for us. Shiva just stood up and we ended up hugging each other. We didn't know what to do. It was surreal, and it's still sinking in.
Well, the joy was absolutely palpable. It's one of those things that I think if I'm ever having a wet Wednesday, I'll go back and watch. So, Tim, being the chair of the Best British Jury is a big responsibility, but one that you're no stranger to now. So what makes a winner? What are you looking for in the films? And what did you think about this year's class of 15?
It's very difficult because you are essentially comparing apples to oranges. Every film is different. The beauty of what we get on the jury or heading up the jury is that there's been a pre-selection, so the quality is always there, you know, in a sense. I mean, it's always quite frightening at the beginning of the year because you suddenly think, what if they're not very good? I say this every year, you know, it's like, what if? Of course, there's a wealth of talent there. I think the way I view it is that when you enter a short, there's a very strict, when you see a short film, there's a very, very strict grammar in operation there. It doesn't have the luxury of a feature film to embroider the characters, to have plot devices and that sort of stuff. So you have to enter the world. And I think a successful short like Queer Paravar is you're immediately in that world. It sounds very crass to say you believe that world. No matter what it is, it's fully constructed, it's fully fleshed out, and you're there immediately and you go on that journey, whether it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. I think that's what gives the level of distinction to the shorts that are here, definitely.
Amazing. I mean, yeah, you say I wanted to be in that world. I wanted to be in that wedding. It was amazing.
I think we all want to be in that wedding, didn't we?
So what was it that made Queer Paravar the winner this year, as well as kind of creating the world? Tell us a bit more about how you reached that decision.
I mean, there's 5 jury members, so we go through every short that is in the short list. We then kind of try and boil down to get to the films that we all agree on, and that's in that sense. But I think it sounds a very silly thing to say, but I think a very truthful thing to say is this is such a joyful short, and we loved it for that reason. You know, in the world we're in at the moment, you just need to see this kind of joy and be there. And it told a very interesting, delicate story that you don't often see on the screen within queer histories and that sort of stuff. So it kind of had that definition of being very, very special. And I think all the judges felt that very much so, as well as it being beautifully rendered and beautifully shot. It was just a world that was so unique and we'd not seen before. So it seemed kind of to tip the balance in that sort of sense.
That's amazing. Neeraj, how does it feel hearing that about your film?
So we wanted exactly to create that kind of experience. We wanted to create a queer joy and represent all the color, the beauty, the music, the generational aspects of it. And we spent quite a bit of time getting it, and looks like we got it right. And here we are.
Absolutely.
Well, you definitely did get it right, because it was in a program called Queer Joy, which is actually going to be screening later tonight on Channel 4, which is very exciting. Are you going to be staying up to watch, Neeraj?
Yes, indeed. I have also WhatsApped all my friends to stay up and watch it. Join me watching it.
Amazing. We love that. I was really taken by something that is on the website for Queer Paravar earlier, that this is a film made by the community for the community, and hopefully through Iris and through Channel 4 and All 4, loads and loads of people from all communities are going to get to see it. Can you talk a little bit more about what making this film with the community felt like?
It was an exciting exercise for us. There are about 120 queer creatives involved in this. Many of them are UK based, some of them are even in India based as well. And it was a combination of activists, friends that we knew, chosen people from chosen family, artists, artists who are doing some amazing job in the LGBT community. It was exciting to bring everybody together to tell the story. We wanted it to be authentic in every sense, so we actually started casting people whose life experience mirrored a lot about with the characters. So more than what just was going on the screen, it was how it was being told was critically important to us. The representation was important to us. The diversity was important to us. Also, not just in front of, like I said, also in terms of crew. And it when it all came together, it was a gigantic party that lasted for 3-4 days of the shoot. We were shooting all over London, and it was almost like having a wedding, a henna party, a fashion show, a drag contest, a family drama, all set in one. We didn't know when one ended and when other began. But all in all, it was celebration, and we had a great time. It was a joyful exercise, and the joy exudes to the screen when you start seeing this film, and we're so happy about it.
That's incredible. I now want the Queer Paravar secret cinema experience, where we can all have those 4 days. That sounds so much fun. So while you were doing that, did you ever have in mind that you might win the Best British Short at Iris this year? And what does that mean to you?
When we started making this film, we made this film purely to represent the kind of stories we wanted to see. We were not able to see a whole lot of representation about various aspects of South Asian LGBT spectrum, and we wanted our story to be exactly to be a representational exercise. Being nominated for Iris Prize was a big deal. Winning is definitely cherry on top. But what it also does is that certainly people will take this story seriously, this experience seriously. More people will watch it. I hope it permeates into more families, especially South Asian families in UK, outside UK, and it creates the right kind of conversations.
Amazing, thank you. And as we've just mentioned, it will be on Channel 4 tonight. So, Tim, your connection with Iris is also kind of through your life at Channel 4 and Film 4. Can you tell us a bit more about why it's so important that tonight there will be a programme of films called Queer Joy on Channel 4?
I think it's just, it's important. It's the fabric of what Channel 4 and Film 4 are about. We're about telling unique stories, different stories, kind of embracing the kind of talent there, the uniqueness, the Britishness in the terms of being made in this country and that sort of stuff. So it's just a fabulous, package that's kind of given to us that I really wanted to kind of appear on all four and to be scheduled on television. I mean, this is the third year we've done it. The first year, we had 500,000 people watching them on television and about 500,000 views coming to all four. And it's just fantastic to be able to allow the artists to have the films and the stories coming out there for us. And I think it's just an amazing thing. And long may it continue. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's so exciting as well from an Iris perspective, because, once you've been to Iris, it's the most incredible whirlwind 6 days of fun, films, excitement, and as Bedouin was saying earlier, all the additional bits and pieces. But to be able for the whole year to kind of signpost people to all four, to Channel 4, to be able to partake in these brilliant queer stories every day of the calendar year, not just for Iris, not just for LGBT History Month, is such an important thing. So before we go over to some audience questions, Neeraj, I've got to ask, what is next for the Queer Paravar team?
We have a lot of exciting ideas in mind, and only time will reveal what happens to it. Anything from personally, I would love to see a theatrical show develop coming out of it. Shiva has their own ideas about where they want to take this as well. So watch the space for more excitement.
Amazing, thank you. Well, we can't wait to see it. So just as some audience questions are coming in, I do think almost all, if not all of our contributors were at Iris this year. So starting with Noreena, can I ask what your best part of the festival was this year?
Oh gosh, good question. There were so many. Just being with so many like-minded people, being in a community where we're all there to watch LGBTQ plus films. Just the night, standing there chatting to people.
Amazing, thank you for that. And Tim, what about you?
Oh, I'm sound like I'm gonna be very grand here, but actually it was giving the award for Queer Paravar. It was fantastic. There's a backstory where there's a reception for it, and I met the director and met two people from the film, and they told me they had to leave to go to their day job the next day. They were just up for part of the evening, and I was like, oh my God, please let them be in the auditorium to get the award, because you couldn't tell them that sort of stuff. And it's just that moment of when you give it, and just the emotion they have. Also meeting the filmmakers, meeting the audience, and getting together physically now and talking about films, seeing films together. There's that shared experience, which is just fabulous.
Amazing. Bedouin, what about you?
Oh, there were many. I guess walking into parties and cinemas and screenings and realizing that I don't actually know who anybody is, which implies we've gone from the let's bus some friends in, and yeah, I've started learning how to relax and just talk to people, and you just realize, people have, I met somebody who'd taken the day off and they had X amount of money and they'd bought a day pass, and that was their big thing, was to see some films and meet some people. And you forget as an organizer, you're in the middle of worrying about budgets and have we got enough this, that, and the other. And in the middle of all of this is just pure joy of people just experiencing films.
Amazing. Neeraj, what about you?
So this was my second time coming to Iris, and Iris, when you come here, it's your family, and you can never be far from your family. After, especially coming back after 2 years of pandemic, this was exciting to see all the familiar faces. It felt like coming home, and winning the award here was a cherry on the top.
Amazing. And Tom, your first Iris, what was your highlight?
I just when we first arrived at the cinema in that lovely bar area upstairs, I bumped into Bowen, bumped into some other filmmakers. That was just immediately felt so welcoming and lovely, creative. I've got to say, obviously Gary winning Best Actor, I was just so pleased for him, and I could just see how much it meant to him. And he had been so fantastic, working with us. That has to be the highlight, really.
Amazing. Thank you so much all for that. That's bringing back all the Iris memories, feeling very rosy. So we've got a question from Andy who's watching, which is for our filmmakers. How did you cast your lead actors? So Tom, on the subject of Gary, can I come back to you on that one first?
Yeah, so we had a casting director, we had the usual just masses of self-tapes, and we'd asked them to speak a bit about what Pride meant to them as well, like a sort of separate question, as well as the script reading. And he just delivered this. It could have been a short film in itself, the self-tape. It was just how he had basically been in the closet for so long and then came out. And it was just such a powerful story. And immediately, as a director, you're like, that's just, he's already got this character, And then we did have auditions as well. And he was very technically good in those and great to work with. But yeah, I think it's interesting. The actual line reading was less of a thing really than that story really, which he just instantly was the character really.
Amazing, thank you. And Neeraj, I know you spoke about bringing over 120 people together for this film, but how did the casting happen specifically?
So Shiva was the director, and they were one of the leads, of course. But Shiva they were also particular about, like I said, the life experiences that the actors bring in. And so we had casting someone who was Muslim and queer was for the role was a challenge, but I mean. We got through it. It had its own challenges, ups and downs, given the fact that Shiva was a first-time filmmaker at that point and so on. But somehow it all came through. The actor that we chose, somehow they turned out to be Shiva had worked with them in some prior projects, so the chemistry worked very well, and the rest is history.
Amazing, thank you for that. Millie, I've got a question for Berwyn. Iris looks fantastic, but I'm not in Cardiff. Will there be anything similar in other cities?
Well, the important thing about not being in Cardiff is obviously there is an online offering. So for the whole of October following the festival, every single short I think that we screened, almost every single short that we screened, was available online in the United Kingdom, geo-locked. So I can't imagine us not doing that next year, because that is a fantastic way for us to reach people who can't get to Cardiff. Obviously, I think you've already mentioned the best of Iris on the Move. I'm not going to list all of them. I'll have a go. Newcastle, Manchester, Liverpool, Plymouth, Bournemouth, Brighton, Bristol, etc., etc., etc. So there will be opportunities to see the best of Iris, which includes the Australian winning film and a few other films that we haven't mentioned this evening. And I'd say, the most important destination for everybody in the UK for the next 12 months is all 15 amazing films, and they're there for you to enjoy between now and, well, we'll have to wait now, and then there'll be the class of 2023, and they'll be muscling in, demanding their moment of 12 months or whatever. So, yeah, there's lots of opportunities. And of course, there's a lot of content. There's a lot of shorts and stuff available on YouTube and Vimeo and all the other platforms.
Brilliant. Thank you, Berwyn. A question for Neeraj from Ralph. Ralph says they loved the look of the clip and really enjoyed the music. Who composed it?
So it's done by Rachel, and he is a UK-based a music composer who composed the song. And one of the songs is actually by Leo, and it has some contribution from MNEK as well. So two
Oh,
songs,
wow.
yeah.
Amazing. That's very cool.
One of the songs was actually sung by an Oscar-nominated Indian singer called Bombay Jayashri. So we were
Incredible.
we're super excited. We were delighted to have this ensemble of creative talent giving music and sound to the film.
Amazing. Thank you. A question for Berwin from Pablo. It's great to see the new Beyond the Binary Award. How difficult was it to find an intersex film for the festival?
We can only reflect what's out there. So that specific feature film just landed. It was there, and just because it dealt with that subject matter wasn't necessarily a reason to screen it. It had to be good as well, and it was. So that's always a bit of a relief. As Tim was saying, you could end up with some interesting content, but the filmmaking, not necessarily exciting to watch. So it was a decision to acknowledge diversity in performance and just generally, and we've been aware of that with the acting awards, for example. So we were one of the first festivals some time ago now where we made a point of saying it's a performance in a male role or a performance in a female role, and the natural thing was, well, what about the roles which were not male or female? And I think at the moment I'm slightly disappointed in that we're not seeing more, but I think it is a transitional moment, and because obviously we've got non-binary actors playing male and we've got non-binary or whatever playing female, but it's to do with the characters, it's to do with the physicality, the reality of that diversity on the screen. So so I'm kind of excited. I feel in my waters. No, I shouldn't say my waters. That sounds a bit weird. If I had a crystal ball, I'm not sure if that would be even more successful. But my my sense is that going back to the audience, people want to see it, and filmmakers should recognize that very quickly, and get the writers and the directors, move on. Let's see the stuff, because definitely Iris would be more than happy to share that type of content. But obviously we can't share stuff that doesn't exist.
Yes, correct. So I have another question for the filmmakers. So we'll start with Tom with this question. How important is it to cast actors who are queer to play queer roles? What do you think they bring to performances by being queer?
I think it was definitely something we felt was important. But Jim, I mean, look, gosh, I think there's a slight can of worms element to this, and I think, I think there is a certain authenticity, and I think it goes back to what I said about Gary's tape. As a director, you're looking for that reality and that deep connection, which does come through on screen, and he just had that in spades. So, in both cases with both of our leads, and I should have mentioned Carrie as well. I felt like they could inhabit those characters in a very authentic way. So, and it just feels right, for telling these stories that people themselves have experienced. Elements, it's different, it's different now to the 80s, but things that they will have a certain connection, I think, that really speaks on screen. So that was very important to us, certainly, in the production.
Amazing, thank you. And Neeraj, I know that we've talked quite a lot about the authenticity that was so important for Queer Paravar. But do you have anything to add specifically about what queer performers bring to the performance?
First, we are creating a space for queer performers to come and play the kind of roles that mirror their life experience. Second, it brings the authenticity, which is very, very important. And having worked with actors who are queer and non-queer, especially in queer films, I can say that queer actors make a huge difference when telling a queer story. You don't have to explain a lot of things. It just makes sense. It's pragmatic to cast queer actors in queer roles. Things become much more easier on the set.
Brilliant, thank you. A question for Tim now from Matthew. How have the Irish shorts been received from the Channel 4 audience? I know you said they got huge numbers in the first year, which was incredible, but what have people been saying?
We had a lot of positive comments from the audience direct to us when we have a duty log, people phoning in, a lot of tweets. I received one yesterday saying how fabulous it was to see these stories on the screen. So it seems to be generally very well received. There's a lot of traffic, for want of a better phrase, that comes through All 4 that searches for these. So it's a great opportunity to show all these stories. And I think what's exciting for me is that people will search them out and want to find them. So it's doing very, very well and very, very positive. We've actually just renewed the scheme again this year for another 3 years. The initial scheme was 3 years, and we felt that it was so successful that we wanted to carry on getting the fresh talent on the screen and these stories up there. So, I mean, that in itself says how well they're being received. Absolutely.
Amazing. That's so great to hear. Question for Berwyn. What do you do when a queer film is submitted, but it's just not very well made due to filmmaking or budget? How do you find the room to support and encourage these filmmakers? That's a question from Emma.
Being honest, I think, is the main thing. And being honest isn't necessarily being very popular, but you could be honest in a way which is supportive and just guiding people into different areas. I think, some people can and some people can't. And the important thing is to make sure that if somebody is excited and they want to be part of the movie making world, is to make sure that there's a way that people can find what their contribution is. Because not everybody wants to be a director. Not everybody can direct, and writing and acting and music and marketing and publicity and the cinemas and the TV stations. There are masses of different ways of actually guiding LGBTQ plus stories from an idea through to sharing it with an audience. So I think being honest, and having said that, I think it's also signposting people. So, and age isn't relevant here. So you could be much older, or you could decide to take a career change, but it's pointing people in the right direction. Groups or schemes where you can develop certain skills, and obviously it's something. It's something we're doing here at Iris. We're going to be launching a new scheme, a new training project early next year, looking at assisting people in how to tell a good story. Because it's still incredible today, you'll have somebody who is absolutely a dab-handed lighting or dab-handed directing, whatever. But you ask them sometimes, what's your story? Anyway, that's another can of worms. So, but being honest, I think, and there's a time to be honest, isn't there? But if it's a premiere of a film or something and it's not very good, I'm hopeless because there's an urge to say what I feel. And then sometimes you realize, yeah, you can be honest, but maybe not today, Berwyn.
Brilliant. Thank you, Berwyn. Claire has a question for Noreena. How was it working with the other jurors? Were there any arguments over the films?
No, we didn't have any arguments. We were very open to listening to why one person liked a film and one person didn't like the film. And there were so many different ways of looking at something that it was really interesting to get everybody's viewpoint. But no, it was very good natured, and you know, we could have gone on for another couple of hours. We just enjoyed chatting about the films, and you know, and particularly things that we hadn't seen before, things that we hadn't seen in LGBTQ plus films, especially, and you know, a lot of I wish we could have more of this sort of thing.
Brilliant. Thank you, Noreena. And we've got our final question from Danny, which is for Berwin. Danny says, I visited for the first time this year and loved the performances and the non-film things. It really added to the experience. How will you top this next year? Never too early to start planning.
I think I need supper first this evening. That might be a good idea. Christmas is also on my list of things I want to do. Going to New York with my mother in December. That's something I'm looking forward to. And hopefully we'll come out of it. No, what is exciting, of course, about Iris is that we all meet as a team in January, and it's probably one of the most exciting bits, really, where we actually walk through the 6 days of the festival, and we, you know, very scientifically will ask different questions. And I can remember January 2022. Somebody maybe called Holly, and we were asking, so what is 2022 going to be like? And basically the answer was very, very simple. 22 is going to be 21, but better. So all I can say at this stage is that 2023, I've got a couple of something slightly more exciting, but 2023, and we know the challenge because yes, this year was a good year, but I'm confident that 2023 will also be. Do people still say fabulous?
I think we can for Iris.
Yeah. Okay. So 2023 will be fabulous.
Well, what a great note to end on. Thank you all so much for being with us tonight for the Peccadillo Pictures Sofa Club Iris Prize Special. Thank you so much to the BFI for your support of the Peccadillo Sofa Club. And thank you to our guests, Berwin, Noreena, Tom, Tim, and Neeraj. If you enjoyed our chat tonight, you can share it on socials with the hashtag Peccadillo Sofa Club. And you can watch the 15 Best British Short Films from Iris 2022, including Jim and Queer Paravar, on All 4 now. And sign up to the Iris Prize newsletter or follow us at Iris Prize on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to find out more about Iris on the Move coming to a cinema near you in 2023. So that's good night for me, and that's nearly good night from tonight's Peccadillo Sofa Club. But before you go, please enjoy the trailer for Wildhood, which is out now on Blu-ray, DVD, and VOD. Thank you.
Does this look like the sky or the ocean? To me, they look the same. And what if they don't fit anywhere? That's how your mother felt. She felt like she didn't belong.
You said she was dead! She was dead the day she left his house, alright? She don't want you. Don't you dare! Link, don't!
What are we gonna say when we go back?
You into dirt bikes? What's your favorite ride?
Are you Micmac? Link's Micmac.
No, I'm not.
It's Mi'kmaq.
Yeah, we don't need your help.
What's all that? Regalia. For dancing. A good dancer can make a bit of cash.
You any good?
1, 2.
She ran away. Why didn't you take me with her?
Lincoln. Quello guarguito.
He likes you.
Whatever.
He wants to do it.
You don't know how lucky you are that you got somewhere you're going.
How do you say mother?
Engage. Request a son.